bigger, wilder, more action? How would you describe it?
I think this is a season where we're going to return to the idea of this being a vampire show.
Okay.
In the last season, we really explored the long history of Esther Michelson and her sister Dahlia, which is rooted in witchcraft and the spell of the firstborn Michelson. And we did a lot of stuff with the Crescent Wolves and the Wolf Pack and the marriage and how that changed the wolves. This is a season where we're going to double down on the long history of the Michelsons as vampires. Who did they turn? What was that like? What were the circumstances of the Michelson family, the original vampires, turning other people into vampires for the first time in history? There was someone, we know that Klaus turned Marcel. Who else was turned? Who was turned first? And we want to see that the original sire line. There's a Rebecca sire line, a Klaus sire line, and an Elijah sire line out there somewhere. What are their motives? What are their drives? What might they want with their sires today? We all know that if an original dies, their entire sire line is wiped out. So if you are an ancient vampire, powerful, strong, beautiful, young forever, you probably want to make sure that there's nothing that can kill you. And yet, if you're smart and you've been keeping tabs on the Michelsons, you know Michael almost killed Klaus. Esther wanted to kill all of her children. Dahlia very close to killing her, her nieces and nephews in the finale. So you need to make sure that you're not going to die because the Michelsons get taken out. Do you ambush them, bury them alive, throw them at sea so they can never be killed? Do you, if there is some kind of conflict between sire lines, you say, hey, I could wipe out my competitors by killing Klaus or Elijah or Rebecca. And Rebecca especially is in a very vulnerable place because she's not even in her body right now. And Elijah and Klaus are in very vulnerable places because they are at each other's throats. They are estranged. They hate each other right now. So if you were ever going to try to take down a Michelson, and you're almost just as strong as they are, almost just as powerful as they are, would now be the right time to do it. And so that's what we want to explore. I would say the big difference between Season 2 and Season 3 is we are introducing a lot of vampires, and we want to make this a show about that long history of vampires across the globe.
And there will be multiple big villains this time?
More than one, definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Some of the other guys were talking about it feels a little like a reboot for the show. Do you agree with that?
It was one of the things we definitely talked about. Just reimagining a brand new conflict to come into the city of New Orleans, and what could possibly put our main characters in danger, given that they are so powerful and strong and ancient. And I think we've got a great concept for what that is. And I think just as important is what I was saying earlier, the notion that they're divided, and they also have, because of their associations and their family, Freya is vulnerable, Haley is vulnerable, Baby Hope is vulnerable. So it's going to be, Klaus Michelson is in a dangerous place because he loves people now, and he actually, by loving other people, you expose yourself a little bit. And yet, at the same time, if somebody went after his kid or the mother of his child or any, Marcel or any of his friends, I think he'd go ballistic, as we've seen him do in the past. So, a great opportunity to play with what will the family do to protect themselves, even if it means forgiving each other for all the terrible things that happened at the end of the last season.
Is there going to be a lot of romantic linking up this season?
Yes, I think you're going to see. Well, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine as to what the fans are going to be happy about. I know that we're telling a really cool story, and the cool thing about introducing these new vampires is that any one of these new vampires can be a potential love interest for any one of our characters. It's not like, bringing back Cole, Finn, Esther, and Michael. None of those characters are potential love interests for Elijah, Klaus, or Rebecca. But all of these new vampires that we're bringing could be potential love interests. And so you have to wonder, are they friends? Are they foes? Are they love interests? Are they potential allies? Will those concepts shift over the course of the season? So I'm very interested in exploring who was the first vampire that Klaus turned. Why did he turn this person? Who was the first vampire that Elijah turned? Why did he turn this person? Who was the first vampire that Rebecca turned, and why? Yeah. So that's and we're going to see those flashbacks, and we're going to see those vampires in the present.
Are we also going to see growth progression?
She will age like a normal human being, and our season premiere picks up 6 months after the finale. So the reality is we have a baby actor, a child, who has grown not quite 6 months, but in the ballpark. And when we're going to ask our audience to say, that's approximately how old Baby Hope is. And if we were to do a larger time cut in the future, we're prepared to recast so that we can play an older version of Hope.
The CW, of course, has The Flash, Arrow, and now Legends of Tomorrow. Did you ever imagine the Vampire Diaries universe incorporating a third show?
That's a question for Julie. I know that she is very ambitious, but that sounds like it would be a lot of vampires. We are trying. It is true. We're trying on our show to broaden the scope and show what is vampirism like outside of the world of New Orleans, and how might these vampires be affected by or influenced by or have concern about our originals in New Orleans. So hopefully we'll see at least a little bit of a broader world to our vampire family.